Welcome to the Breakaway Entrepreneur Podcast, where master business coach Janet Fish and her special guests explore the characteristics and traits that lead entrepreneurs to success. Get ready for real conversations of what it takes to overcome real challenges and break away from your competition. Here's your host, Janet Fish.
Thanks, Ben. I've spoken in the last couple of weeks to a number of folks who have been furloughed or out of work or are just worried their jobs will never come back. And I get it. And if you're one of those people, you're not alone. If you've ever considered starting your own business, I'm here to help. I've helped over 1,000 clients build successful businesses with my proven step-by-step process. Get started today building your own successful business. You literally can have a business up and running in a couple of weeks following my proven 5-step plan. And guess what? You don't have to invest anything to get started. That's right, you can start your own business with no money. Go to www.breakawaybusinesscoaching.com/5steps right now. What have you got to lose? It's free. On this week's episode, my guest Phil Bru and I discuss the role of mentors, dealing with failure, how to make the best out of a bad situation, among other topics. Phil is a licensed insurance and investments broker, soccer player, snowboarder, along with just being a really great guy. I hope you enjoy our chat. Good afternoon, Breakaway Entrepreneurs. I'm super excited this afternoon to have my good friend Phil Bru on the show. Phil, you are a financial planner, insurance guy, helping us older folks and young folks too protect themselves as they enter into retirement or plan for retirement. And you'll kind of fix anything that I might have said there, clear it up a little bit. Anyway, welcome to the show. I'm super excited to have you.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So let's just start out. Let's jump right in. Just start out with telling us a little bit about you, how long you've been an entrepreneur, what you do, and kind of what are your favorite things about it.
Yeah, so I think kind of like a lot of people, I fell into it a little bit. I started working in insurance actually when I think before I was 21. I was about 20 years old. I started working my first internship in insurance while I was still in college. Went to Sac State. I played for the soccer team for Sac State. So my whole life was with sports before the end of college, and then kind of eventually got to the point that everyone gets to when you're a student athlete and you realize, well, I probably have to start thinking about what I'm going to do after this because it's not looking like I'm going to be playing in the MLS. So I ended up working for a company out in Rockland called Abram Interstate Insurance. And from there, got a couple of different offers. Ended up going to Mutual of Omaha, where I was there for a couple of years, worked as an insurance agent for them, doing the life, disability, long-term care. Also got my registered investment license, so Series 65, and then from there ended up switching to go independent, working with Capital Planning Group. So been there for the last couple of years.
Yeah, I know. I've known you since you did that. So talk about you work for Mutual of Omaha. Now you're kind of with a more independent firm. Talk about what went into that decision-making process and why you went that route.
Yeah, so that was a tough decision to make at the time. When I was working for Mutual of Omaha, it was something that I had kind of in the back of my mind. It's just something that I wanted to do at some point, was to go more independent and to just have a little bit more freedom. Working with Mutual of Omaha was an awesome experience for me, but I just didn't really want to wear a suit and tie to work every day for the rest of my life. It was a little bit, the benefit of working for a big company is you get that structure and you get the training and you get all the, the access that they all give you. And then eventually what happens is you decide that it's a little bit more important to you to have a little bit more freedom, to walk into the office in a t-shirt, and just to be able to, on the flip side for my clients, to be able to offer them a wider variety of, of how I can help them. Because when I work with a single insurance company, I have to go to them first. They might not be the best fit for everyone. They're a great company, but they're not going to be the best at everything. So it's just good to have more options. And so it was kind of a no-brainer. I walked in on a good situation. Capital Planning has been around for the gentleman who started it. Started it about 30 years ago now. So it's a little bit more established, and it checked a few of the boxes that I was looking for. And it was just one of those things that worked out, and I'm definitely glad I ended up doing that.
So talk about, you mentioned freedom. So clearly and we hear that a lot. It's certainly one of the reasons that I became an entrepreneur, but talk a little bit more about the reasons that you went down that path of kind of breaking out on your own, and being more responsible for what you do versus working for a big company?
Yeah, I mean, so freedom is kind of the thing that I think everyone who takes a job where they're not, they don't have that W-2 salary. One of the big things we're all looking for is if I want to go and, the snow's good up in Tahoe on a Tuesday, I want to be there. I don't want to be in the office making phone calls when I know I could be snowboarding. So it just having that option to be able to do that. Now, obviously we all get busy. We all have, meetings we have to be at and all that stuff. But just kind of having the time and the money. Those are the two big things. A lot of people are focused only on the money. For me, it was always about, being able to have the time to do the things that I want to do, that I'm passionate about, and to be able to make a living. So that it was perfect. It checked both of the boxes. I can kind of do, a little bit. I have a little bit more freedom and people I work with, they know I love to snowboard. They know I'm going to be up in the mountains when the snow hits. And so that's why they know when I'm working more hours in the summers, because winter's coming and they know I might take an extra day or two off just to get a little bit more riding in. So that was kind of the biggest deal to me. And I know it's a big deal to a lot of entrepreneurs as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I don't know if this is true of your situation, but what I've seen in a lot of people that do what you do, go from working for a big company where in a lot of respects, your salary is capped, or what you can make is capped. I mean, you can only go, in most big companies, you only go so far. However, when you kind of craft out on your own, even though you're working with a well-established company, I want to talk a little bit more about that as well. But I've seen a lot of times where your income, the upper level of your income is much greater than it ever would be staying with I won't even use the company name because I don't want to seem like I'm bashing them, but staying with a bigger company versus going out on a little bit more of an entrepreneurial way where you can control a little bit more about what your income level looks like. Is that true for you?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's not as black and white as maybe other industries, but I mean, for our industry as a whole, especially insurance and finance, if you look at all the top producers, they're all independent advisors, they're all independent insurance agents. And the reason for that is you can focus on those, you don't have to spend as much time doing what I call it the non-revenue generating activities. That when you're working for a big company, they're going to make sure that you're getting all those corporate emails, you're getting all these activities you have to do. There's a lot more bells and whistles that you have to jump through to kind of appease, corporate. That's just the way it works. So on an independent level, one of my favorite things that I heard the gentleman who owns our company, Richard Briebel, say when I first got on, he kind of told me the only thing I do is sit down in front of clients, meet with clients, try and, generate more revenue or spend time with my family. Those are the two things. So that would just immediately fit right into what I wanted to do. I was like, well, that's perfect. I want to either work as hard as I can or, make sure I'm traveling, doing some fun things that I enjoy doing and less time sending emails and sitting on corporate calls and doing all that. So that's definitely the biggest factor for me because you can focus more on spending more time doing what you need to do to earn a living and bring in more clients. So that was a big deal for me.
So I also know, and you mentioned, I'm assuming it's his name, but the guy who runs the company, I know he works with David Ramsey and he's a well-known guy, but you've seen him as kind of a mentor. And I'm a big fan of mentors. We talk about mentorship a lot on this podcast. Can you go in a little bit more about what he has meant to you and why? I mean, I know that was part of the decision-making process for you to go to that company or go work with that company. Talk a little bit about what he has meant to you and how he's helped you. Yeah,
so that ended up being the number one thing, that I was looking for as far as what type of company I wanted to join. I wanted to find a place where I could, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. There's always someone who's done something better than you could do it. And best way to learn is to just hang around them, figure out, okay, what are these people doing? How do they bring in this many clients? How do they talk to a brand new client? Just kind of letting them, teach you. And that was something I picked up on, honestly, from sports growing up is, you don't have to be the best at what you do right away. You just have to find the people who are the best and then just work with them. Just, for me, it might even be just talking to someone and say, hey, can I just pick your brain, take you out to lunch and kind of ask you about how you got started? How did you get good at this industry? And so that was the biggest factor for me was when I had the opportunity to work for someone who, is established, we're a locally endorsed provider for the Dave Ramsey program. We're currently the second fastest growing registered investment advisor in the United States. So just being able to have that opportunity to work with kind of an established company, but still get those other perks of being able to go snowboard on a Tuesday and not get those angry emails from a corporate person, it was a no-brainer for me.
That's awesome. So we talk a lot on this podcast about entrepreneurs and the characteristics and traits. So you're an entrepreneur. Talk a little bit about what you see kind of as imperative for entrepreneurs to have in order to be successful.
Yeah, the biggest thing is going to be dealing with failure, right? Because we're all going to fail at some point. We're all going to not have, we're all going to have hard times at some point, especially now during the coronavirus. And I think one of the things that kind of helped prepare me for times like this is just how many times I've failed and made mistakes and not gotten the deal that I thought I was going to get kind of going into coronavirus. Because now a lot of people, you can tell these types of people that have never gone through something difficult in their life and have never, had to overcome anything. And so for a lot of entrepreneurs, that's all we do every day. Every day is we're just putting out fires, trying to figure out, okay, how do we fix this? How do we answer this question? How do we solve this problem for this client? There's always something new. And so just when something like the coronavirus happens, I think it was kind of, obviously we're all working. I feel like I'm working 10 times harder than I was a year ago, but it's just something that, is out of my control. And it's just something that we all have to overcome. So that I think salespeople, entrepreneurs, we're all in the same boat on that. It's just figuring out the problem and figuring out how we can solve it.
Yeah, I like to say we fail and fail till we don't.
Yeah, you just have to not fail one time. And then
yeah. And I think it makes a big difference because I've coached a lot of people who never really were successful as entrepreneurs, and then I'd be like, go back and get a job because they could never deal with it's challenging. We all have them, and it's all part of the game. And I've talked on this podcast with a number of people that have said the bigger the challenge, the bigger the growth. Like the harder the challenge it is, the bigger the growth. I mean, the guys who are really successful can all tell you stories of huge failures that they've had. And it's just being able to get up and dust yourself off and say, okay, great. That didn't work and that sucked, but hey, I'm going to do something different. How can I turn that loss into a win? So can you talk about any specific challenges that you've experienced and how you've kind of learned from them?
Oh yeah. So the biggest and most recent one would definitely be right when March hit and the coronavirus started happening. We're pretty notorious for doing seminar marketing, as are a lot of other people in the financial advisor industry. So we do seminars that are just at different various libraries around Northern California. And the whole purpose of those is for educating people on how to get the most money out of Social Security, how to, time that correctly with your other personal, whether it be pension, 401ks, and all the other different sources of income that retirees have. So that was as far as my sources of income, that was about 50% of my income from last year came from the different clients that I was able to bring in from those seminars. So right in March, I pretty much realized, okay, about 50% of my income is gone. I don't know how long it's going to last, so I'm going to have to figure out another way. And, kind of what you were saying, when you have those big challenges, a lot of times you come out on the other side and you're so much better and more bulletproof than before, because now we've completely changed our entire marketing strategy. We moved everything online. We get clients from a few different sources online, whether that be, working with Dave Ramsey and helping the people that call in from his radio show. That was something that fortunately we had already been doing before, so we had that in place, and we picked up another couple of strategies on marketing online. And now when eventually this, hopefully coronavirus will end at some point, I don't know when that's going to be, but whenever that is, when we go back to doing, the in-person seminars and all of that stuff, now we have all these different sources of revenue that we would never have even thought to look into if it wasn't for something like this. So obviously it hurts. I felt like I'd take a punch to the stomach every time I woke up in the morning for the first couple of months, because I didn't know what I was going to do, but eventually you figure it out. And I'm definitely excited that once we get back to normal, hopefully at some point, things are going to be, even better than they ever could have been before. So there's always a bright side somewhere. Sometimes it just sucks to have to get there.
Well, and I've heard that a lot, and I've actually experienced some of that in my own business. I took a pretty big hit. I had a lot of clients that had me on retainer that put me on hold when this all happened,
Yeah.
and some of them I'm still on hold. But I've just had to figure out through Zoom and through online how to reach my audience. And the beautiful thing is that's, like you said, you've just added a whole nother category of marketing that no one can ever take that away. There are going to be people who don't want to get in their car and drive to a hotel and sit in there and listen to a seminar. Like,
Yeah.
I want to do it at home, and I want to sit in my jammies and do it, or I want to do it and then go to my next thing without having to get in the car and drive. So I just think it's changed for the people who look at it that way. It's changed. There are some silver linings. There are some great things that have come out of it. There's some people who are killing it because they had to pivot, and that's a big word everyone uses, but really have had to look at the way that they do their business, run their business, find their clients. And good on you. I mean, good on all of us for saying, hey, we've got to figure out a different way, and they can never take that away from us when things go back to whatever the normal is that will go back to. So
Exactly.
I personally, as you talk about some of those challenges, and we all have them, one of the things that is most important to me for me to get through some of those challenges are my homies, my peeps, my other entrepreneurs that when I'm struggling with something or I'm having a tough time, I know I can call on those people and they can help me get through that tough time. Have you found that to be something that's significant for you, and what does that look like?
Yeah, for me, it has been so having some sort of support system is something that's kind of always been important to me. And for me, a lot of that just involves getting outside and kind of learning to take the stress off by, hanging out with my friends, going for different hikes. If I know you follow me on Instagram, so you see me wandering around different places in Tahoe all summer. So, a lot of that is you just need to get your mind. You need to keep your mind healthy, and you need to make sure that, the more stressful things get, which obviously, for me, I've probably been more stressed out this year than I have been in the last at least 5 years. So for me, I need to double down on the things that I know will, help me de-stress by spending more time with family and friends and, other people that I'm close with in business, and, just getting outside, making sure I'm doing enough hiking and all that. And it's funny because sometimes I don't want to go hike, and sometimes I just want to sit around on the weekend and wait for Monday to come again because I'm so tired from working. But, if you do that and you forget about the things that make you happy, then, pretty soon that stress is going to add up. And if you don't have some sort of method to at least calm it down, it's going to get ugly.
Well,
It has been.
Yeah, and the balance is so important. I mean, that's one of my favorite things about being an entrepreneur is, I take every Friday off and play golf with my sister. I'm also a big skier, and I love to be outside. And sometimes I don't get enough of it because I sit at my desk and I'm like, oh, there's this other cool project I want to work on, and I don't go out and get as much outside time as I should. But you really have to do it. And I will tell you, like one day a week, which is my Friday, I go play golf with my sister, and that's just sacred, and it's rare that I don't do it. It's just super important. And I love the fact that you do that because a lot of people don't necessarily do that, or they let it. I love what you say. Some days I really would just rather kick back and sit on the couch, but I know that I'll serve myself better for me, it's going to the gym. For you, it's going out for a hike, probably going out and playing a little soccer if you guys can do that. I don't know if that's sanctioned yet, but so that's great. I'm really super glad that you do that and you add that to what you do every day. So I was going to ask you, and you've kind of already answered this question, but I'm going to ask it again just in case there's more to it. Kind of how has your business changed because of coronavirus? And I know you've touched on it, but are there other things that you have seen? Because you now work. I see you every week because we're in a networking meeting. You're in the same room, I'm in my room. Let me out of the box. Do you get to go to the office at all, or how has coronavirus changed other than some of the marketing stuff that you're doing?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been fortunate enough to where I still have the option to go into my office. We have a small office with 3 different separate offices. So I have one, my coworker Ryan has another, and then Richard, the gentleman who owns our company. So we're kind of a socially distanced office anyways. So I've been going in there pretty much most of the coronavirus. I usually work the mornings in there, and then the afternoons I like to work from home, which is something I've been doing since coronavirus. But I would say the biggest change, and then something I think is going to continue to be different after coronavirus is over, is just how consumers and the marketplace for what I do has really changed. And I think people have realized it's almost easier to do a lot of this stuff online. Mm-hmm. You don't need to have someone come out to your house 3 separate occasions to walk you through an introduction meeting, to do a meeting on, here's your options and what you can do when you can retire. Here's how this policy would work. And then do a separate meeting to go over questions that our clients have. That was our normal process. Was we would go to the client's home, we would meet with them, we would go through what we call fact-finding appointments, where we just figure out, okay, what's your situation? What are you currently doing? When do you want to retire? What are your concerns? And figure out what the client needs. Second appointment was always the kind of coming back with more solutions, showing them, hey, based on what you told me, here is how you can, fix the problems that you want to fix. And then the third appointment would always be to just go through the client's questions. And then from there, we would see, what they would want to do. We can do most of that over the phone.
Yeah.
And one of the awesome things for me, and I think for my clients as well, is I don't have to drive to Vacaville and then to Woodland and then to Davis and then all the way over to Elk Grove to meet with 4 different people. I can sit in the office, I can sit in my room in my PJs, and I can talk to those same 4 clients, and it will be, in a 2-hour period instead of an 8-hour period.
Yeah.
So I can almost get more done now during coronavirus than I ever could have thought I could have done before. I think a lot of that's going to stay. I think a lot of people will appreciate that. I think most people don't necessarily want to have some, financial advisor driving out to their house 4 times in a month period, when you could do a lot of that just over the phone in a 30-minute phone call. I think people appreciate that as much as I appreciate not having to drive there. Now, it's still definitely nice to be able to do that, to be able to go to clients and see them in person and all that stuff. But maybe you don't need to do every single meeting in person at their house, or make them drive and, take time off work to come into the office. I think there's a much easier way to do things. And I think a lot of people, not only in my industry, are kind of figuring that out, kind of rethinking, do we need to do things this way? Or is there a better, more efficient way that will still accomplish the exact same thing that we want to accomplish as before? So that's been the biggest change for me. And I think that will stick around after.
I do too. In fact, on the interview I did that's going to air next week, I was just editing it today. We were talking about the exact same thing. And I was using a financial planner. Like, typically I would go to their office, or they'd come here, and like, I don't need that. Let's get it. You know me, I'm a pretty let's just get it done girl. Like, okay, great. Maybe for the introductory meeting, you want to come out, we want to meet face to face so I can meet you and you can meet me and all of that. But if we're just talking about, hey, let's answer my questions and let's figure out some things, and you get a little bit more information, like, let's just do it over Zoom. And like you said, way more effective, way more efficient, not only for you, but for the client. Like, I don't necessarily, like I was telling Krishna was the interview I did, and I said, I don't necessarily need to come and visit you and have you take me to lunch, and and that's all great and good, and let's do that every once in a while, but we don't need to do that,
every time.
All the time. Exactly. So I think it really is helpful in us using our time and changing the paradigms. Like, that's the way we've always, in some of our businesses, that's the way we've always done it. So we continue to do it. Well, now that's not the way we've done it. So let's take what works and change it, and then get back to some of the stuff we used to do. So one other question, or maybe more than one other question, but you're a financial planner and you help, and most people, well, you're a finance and insurance. And one of the things I'm struck, because I've known you for a while, when I think of that, I think, okay, I will work with you when I'm, 60, 55, 60, 65, to, figure out where I am and when I can retire and what that's going to look like. But you talk a lot about people that are your age, significantly younger than that, and how they should start thinking about that now rather than wait until later. So talk a little bit about that, because I just think it's an interesting spin that not everybody in your industry really leads with.
Yeah, so there's two things really, because what I do is we are on the investment side. We're what's called a fiduciary. So we are a fee-only fiduciary, a registered investment advisor. So a lot of people don't realize there are two different types of advisors. There are broker dealers, and then there are investment advisors. So we get paid basically by charging either a 1% fee, or depending on the situation, we may charge less than that. For 401k, it's usually closer to about 25 basis points. And then on the insurance side, we have basically the commissions. Those are paid by an insurance person. So insurance is a weird one because it's a very as needed thing. If someone doesn't need life insurance, I won't even really talk about it. I mean, I had a situation this morning where we were talking about insurance with a prospect. And because there are so many different types about life insurance, the benefit of working with someone like me who's not an insurance broker and doesn't sell a specific product, I'm only going to ever talk about what it is that client needs. So yeah, I might have, the newest and greatest insurance product for building cash value, but if the client doesn't need that, I'm never even going to mention it to a client. So one of the nice things about working with, younger people, and something that I've actually done a lot more during coronavirus, since I've kind of had a little bit more freed up time, is I get to focus on helping people do the same things that I'm doing in my life, in my personal, finances, and starting those retirement accounts and starting to contribute more and figuring out, okay, once I max out this account, where do I put my money after this? How much should I have here? So kind of doing those same things with a lot of people that are my age. It's actually been a lot of fun because it's something that, I can relate to because it's something that I'm doing. And I can just show people, hey, here's what I do. Here's what you're doing. If you want to see what I'm doing, I'll show you how it works. I'll tell you what I think, and then you can do whatever you want. It's kind of a no obligation type of deal. So it's just a different side of business because the solutions that people my age need are completely different than what someone who is 62 and wondering when they should file for Social Security, wondering how they can protect their retirement savings, wondering how they can pay for long-term care expense. It's just a totally different conversation, and it's one that to be honest, before coronavirus, I didn't really work with people my age just because that was kind of how we did things. Most financial advisors don't really talk to people unless they're, 55 or older and have 500,000 in assets and all that. So kind of getting to do a little bit something different. I mean, it's just, I think for everyone, it's nice to not do the same thing every day. It's nice to switch it up and have a completely different conversation with a completely different type of client. So that's what's been most fun for me.
Oh, that's great. So one more question, and this is just kind of I've known you, and so what would you say your biggest challenge in your business is right now?
Biggest challenge in business would definitely be that's a great question, Janet. I would still say just working on the pivot. I mean, we're kind of as an entrepreneur, you're kind of always pivoting, and you can never get locked into one way. You can't just say, hey, you know what? I found the way. I'm going to stick with this forever, and this will be the way things are. Because the market's always going to be changing. And especially talking about the market, I mean, we've got elections coming up. We've got 2020. We've got politics. We've got all this craziness happening. And in 2 months from now, we might be in a completely different situation than we are now. So, I mean, it is a weird time to be doing business and to be self-employed because we're kind of constantly pivoting, and the marketing platforms that we have today might be completely obsolete in 2 months. Yeah, it feels like time is just kind of speeding up, and I can't even remember what it's like to work in a non-coronavirus environment at this point. Yeah, it feels like it was so long ago. So I think just the constant kind of change that you have to be ready to do, it has been the most challenging part.
Well, that's great because I've worked with, I would say there's more than two, but there's two camps. And so there's the camp that says, I'm going to wait till this is over, right? Which I think is pure insanity, but there are people out there that I'm working with, that I'm not working with, or I'm trying to work with, that are saying, I'm just going to wait till this is over. And then there's the other side, which includes you, obviously. I'll actually say there's three. So there's the other ones, and this is not you, but it's the people who are like muddling through, right? I know that things have to change, and I know I need to do things differently, but I'm gonna muddle through. And then there's my favorite client, which is like me, and you like, I'm leaning into it. I'm running towards it. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm doing, which is really uncomfortable for me because I am a person who sets a path and follow that path as I do for my clients. But a lot of us are just running really fast into the abyss that we don't really know what it's going to look like. But if you're not really embracing it, even though we don't know what it is, I don't know. For me, it's while it's scary and uncomfortable, it's fun, because it's a challenge and I love a challenge. So embracing the uncertainty and the uncomfortableness and all of that, I don't love it every day. But some of the cool things that have come out of it for me and for my clients makes all the difference in the world. So I really, really commend you for taking that attitude, because there's a lot of people out there that don't.
And to add on to that, I would even say a lot of the prospects and the clients that I've talked to fall into those same three, categories. I've talked to a lot of people that, we are perfect clients for what we do. They definitely need to sit down with us. And the answer we keep getting is we're just going to sit and wait it out. And we'll be ready to talk more and make decisions once this all dies down. And now I have, I literally have a list of people in my office that I have in my Excel spreadsheet that once coronavirus is over, I'm going to give them a call and say, hey, remember when you told me that you were ready to talk after coronavirus? Well, now I'm calling you back. So will any of them become our clients? Probably.
Okay, so my suggestion is don't wait. Send those people an email every 2 months. Don't wait till coronavirus is over, because they might realize. So this is me coaching you, and I can't help myself because that's just what I do.
This is why you get paid the big bucks. Yeah.
But if you wait and something happens in those people's lives that they decide they need to do something sooner, there's some other guy who's going to come in and be there in front of them. So my suggestion is send them an email every month and just say, hey, here's what's going on in the world, and I'm here when you're ready. Just stay in front of them with some kind of tidbit that's industry specific, or something that, I had this thought about whatever. Just want to check in how you're doing. Just stay in front of them, because they very well may make a decision to do something before it's over or before it looks like it's over. And if you wait 6 months, there's chances are if they decide they want to make a move, somebody else is in front of them, they're going to talk to that person. So that's my free advice for today.
This is why you're the coach of the group. I guess you earn what you do, huh?
Well, I do like what I do, but anyway, that's just my thought. So I'll take my coaching hat off, and I will put my appreciation hat on. So I'm super, super excited to have spent some time with you. I always end by saying, breakaway entrepreneurs, success comes through mindset, but it's massive action that gets us there. And you're a massive action guy from what you've been doing before coronavirus, but certainly after coronavirus. So super, super big thank you, Phil Bru. Thanks for coming on today. Your contact information is down below in the show notes. If you want to talk to Phil about your retirement, your financial future, and what that might look like for you, whether insurance is right for you, whether you're 20 or you're 80, contact Phil, because he's the dude. So thank you, Phil. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you having me on, Janet.
Thank you for listening to the Breakaway Entrepreneur Podcast. If you like the show, please rate, recommend, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, so we can share more actionable insights with the entrepreneur community. Until next time, challenge your mindset, be bold, take action, and financial freedom will follow. You can get helpful resources and templates to guide and inspire you from Janet's free Breakaway Entrepreneur Toolkit. Get it now by going to www.breakawaybusinesscoaching.com/toolkit.